This is your news source evening bulletin for today, Friday, the 26th day of June in the year 2020. I'm Gordon Mosley. Here is what we're tracking tonight. The incumbent APNU-AFC is standing by the final report issued to the Guyana Elections Commission by the Chief Election Officer, using the valid and credible votes that were cast at the elections. In a three-page statement today, the APNU-AFC also defended and supported the Court of Appeal's decision on the issue of valid votes. According to the coalition, the Court of Appeal determined that a final credible count, as contemplated by Order Number 60 of 2020, does not mean a mere numerical tabulation of votes, but an assessment of the credibility of votes as contemplated by the order. It pointed to the gazetted order for the recount and the system that was put in place by the order for the recount. The coalition said the recount order clearly set out the modus operandi for the Elections Commission for the validation of votes in the recount exercise, and the Representation of the People Act requires the CEO, that's the Chief Elections Officer, to ascertain the valid votes cast in the elections. The APNU-AFC said the Chief Election Officer followed the direction of the court, and his report shows clearly the APNU-AFC coalition received 171,825 valid votes, and the PPP received 166,343 valid votes cast. According to the coalition, the CEO is empowered and instructed by the Constitution and laws of Guyana, not by any other entity or person, adding that he has discharged his functions within the ambit of the law. The coalition also said the recount process revealed a plethora of grave irregularities, and the recount was intended to determine both the quantitative and qualitative nature of the votes cast at the elections, and to determine a final credible count. The party is holding firm to its position that at the end of the recount it became clear that the results disclosed did not meet the standard for credible elections. The Elections Commission instead recorded anomalies, discrepancies, and irregularities, which included votes being cast for dead persons and persons who migrated, missing ballot box documents, ballots cast exceeding the number of persons on the list, and ballots cast with improper identification. The coalition also said it was the Elections Commission that investigated instances of voter impersonation, and it was provided with the relevant immigration records and death certificates by the competent authorities, confirming that certain persons in whose names votes were cast were dead or were out of the country on the elections day. On the CARICOM high-level team report, the APNU-AFC noted that the report acknowledged the occurrence of anomalies, discrepancies, and irregularities, although the team assessed only 18% of the ballot boxes. The coalition said it will abide by the Constitution and the Representation of the People Act, and it calls on the public to respect the Constitution and laws of Guyana. The matter on the declaration of the results is currently before the Caribbean Court of Justice. It will come up for hearing next Wednesday. More news coming up in just a moment.
Hello, boys and girls. As you prepare to write your exams, there are a few things you will have to do each day so that you and those around you can be safe and healthy. Please remember, on the day of your exam, you must wear a mask correctly, covering your mouth and nose before entering the school compound. Wash your hands with soap and water at the entrance of the school at the sink provided for 20 seconds. Paying attention to the palm and back of your hands, between your fingers and their tips. Dry your hands with a clean tissue and dispose in the closed bin nearby. Boys and girls, your temperature will be tested by an official. Then you will go to the designated waiting area with the floor signs and markings clearly visible, standing or sitting 2 meters or 6 feet apart at all times. It is now time to start your exam. The invigilator will direct you to the examination room. All the best. Boys and girls, playing and gathering are not allowed. Parents, the Ministry of Education thanks you for the support you have given the children during the time at home. However, in the interest of everyone's well-being, you will not be allowed to enter the school compound. Parents and guardians, we are counting on your support in picking up the children promptly after their exam. Remember, the Ministry of Education will provide transport for children who are living far away that require that assistance. Please be reminded that vending outside the school's compound is prohibited. Only authorized canteen vendors with a copy of their food handler certificate and wearing a mask, food gloves, apron, hairnet, and a hat will be allowed. Always remember to wear your mask correctly, wash your hands, and stay safe. And let's win the fight against COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Education.
We all want to stay in touch, right? Now, even more than ever before. So to keep your connection strong, GTT is going 2 for 2. Combine GTT mobile and home internet services and we'll give you 2 gigs of free mobile data each month. With 2 GTT services, you're fully connected at home and on the go. Visit us online at gtt.co.gy/2for2 to learn more and start doing more with 2 for 2 from GTT. Stay safe, stay strong, Guyana. We're in this together.
GBTI is your Guyanese bank, a bank that understands every customer's unique needs, opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. At GBTI, we see you for you. Whether you're buying a new home or car, planning your next vacation or retirement, saving for your child's future, or whether you're ready to take that bold step of investing in your dream business idea, we are with you every step of the way. We hear your stories and watch you focus on your dreams as we share your aspirations. We are more than just banking. We are a family. We are part of your community. Our commitment extends way beyond the walls of our branches and is demonstrated every day in the opportunities we provide to our individual and business customers. The support, time, and commitment we give back to communities across Guyana to help improve the lives of our Guyanese families. Because we see Guyana through your eyes.
The following is an important message from the Ministry of Public Health. Getting your workplace ready for COVID-19. Surfaces such as desks, tables, and telephones with keyboards must be wiped with disinfectant regularly, or at least every few hours. Use containers of hand sanitizers and place them in prominent places around the workplace. Provide access to places where staff can wash their hands with soap and water, and promote regular hand washing at the workplace. The Ministry of Public Health has a hotline to provide information on the coronavirus. Members of the public can call 227-4986 or 624-3067.
Welcome back. Leading members of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee today issued a call for the authorities in Guyana to begin a democratic transition of power that reflects the results of the 2nd of March elections. In a statement issued through the local U.S. Embassy, the senators said nearly 4 months since the elections, the Guyanese people are still waiting for an official result, and that is unacceptable. The senators said they share in the frustration expressed by the Caribbean Community CARICOM, the Organization of American States, and other international stakeholders, and call on the Guyanese authorities to issue an official election declaration that reflects the results of the 2nd of March elections, which were confirmed in the official recount by CARICOM's observer mission. The Guyana Elections Commission, which is the only body that could issue a declaration of the election results, is currently barred from doing so at this time by the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is set to hear an appeal on the issue of valid votes next Wednesday. The court made it very clear that no declarations should take place during this time, and it issued orders to that effect. But the U.S. Senator said recent reports coming out of Guyana suggest questionable maneuvers by interested parties designed to continue forestalling a final declaration of results, which it claims members of the press say indicates a defeat for the incumbent government. The senator said President David Granger should honor the will of the Guyanese people and concede. The Foreign Relations Committee members said they extend their support and solidarity to the people of Guyana, who have borne more than their fair share of patience during this process. The committee also said for the sake of the Guyanese people, the future of democracy, and the rule of law in the hemisphere, the ongoing uncertainty and gamesmanship must end. The statement, which appears to be calling on the Elections Commission to ignore the orders of the court, follows a similar statement issued earlier this week by the diplomatic representatives of the American, British, Canadian, and EU missions in Guyana. That statement also called for a declaration now, despite court orders being in place. Chief Election Officer Keith Lowenfield today fired off at a Stabroek News report that claimed that his action to only use credible votes for his final report, thereby invalidating over 115,000 votes, was an act of insubordination. In a statement, Mr. Lowenfield said those who believe that position have failed to recognize the sections of the Constitution that dictates the functions of the Chief Election Officer. He said while the Commission makes certain policy decisions and provides guidance to the Chief Election Officer for implementation by the Secretariat, he has to execute his duties as a constitutional officer, particularly in the conduct of elections. Lowenfield said the contents of the Stabroek News article suggest that the Chief Election Officer must only act as the Commission instructs and flout the constitutional requirements. Mr. Lowenfield also noted that at all times he has acted in conformity with the laws, and therefore his actions cannot be seen as any clear act of insubordination. He said the Stabroek News article is misinformed. He has come under a barrage of criticism locally and internationally over his decision to present his final report, using what in his view are only valid votes. He said his decision was guided by the recent ruling of the Guyana Court of Appeal. The Elections Commission has not acted on his report, as the appeal court's ruling is currently the subject of an appeal before the Caribbean Court of Justice. Still in the world of politics, the People's Progressive Party this afternoon described the Chief Election Officer's decision to discard more than 115,000 votes, deeming them not to be valid and credible, as criminal, adding that his move is a public attempt at elections fraud. On the heels of a flurry of releases from various international organizations calling for a declaration of the election results, the PPP said it is of the view that the Chief Election Officer is part of a larger conspiracy to commit elections fraud. According to the party, there is no law that gives Mr. Lowenfield the power to discard the votes on the basis of validity or credibility. It said Lowenfield is a statutory contractual officer of the Elections Commission, and his mandate is to only act upon the directions of the Commission, adding that he has no power to invalidate a single vote, more so 115,000 votes. The PPP said while the Chief Election Officer appears to be defending his position based on the Court of Appeal's recent ruling on valid votes, the court never gave him any unilateral power to determine the valid votes cast in an election. The party said it will do everything possible to ensure that the move by Mr. Lowenfield does not disenfranchise any elector and suffers the same fate like previous attempts to do such. The PPP currently has a case before the Caribbean Court of Justice seeking an order for the Guyana Court of Appeal's decision to be thrown out. The Guyana Court of Appeal, in a ruling earlier this week, ruled that the words "more votes than," as stated in the Guyana Constitution, means more valid votes. Let's tell you now that the International Court has confirmed that it will be going ahead next Tuesday with the Guyana-Venezuela matter on the question of the court's jurisdiction in the case concerning the 1899 arbitral award. In a statement today, the court announced that Guyana's delegation will present its oral arguments from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. next Tuesday. The government of Venezuela has informed the court that it will not participate in the oral proceedings. In view of the current COVID-19 pandemic, the court said the hearing will take place in the Great Hall of Justice in The Hague via video conference. Some members of the court will be physically present while others will participate remotely, and the representatives of Guyana will address the court by video link. There will also be a live webcast. Guyana is seeking to obtain a final and binding judgment from the court that the 1899 arbitral award, which established the location of the land boundary between then British Guyana and Venezuela, remains valid and binding, and that Guyana's Essequibo region belongs to Guyana and not Venezuela. Venezuela has claimed that the Secretary General of the United Nations exceeded his authority under the Geneva Agreement and that the court therefore lacks jurisdiction to adjudicate Guyana's lawsuit. If the court decides that it has jurisdiction, it will proceed to rule on the merits of those claims and decide whether the validity of the 1899 arbitral award and the border between the two states should be confirmed. Under the UN Charter and the court's own rules, its final judgments both on jurisdiction and the merits will be legally binding on Guyana and Venezuela, whether or not Venezuela takes part in the proceedings. While many countries in the Caribbean region have been seeing a decline in their COVID-19 cases and some are seeing no cases at all, the number of cases in Guyana continues to climb as more tests are being done. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Shamdir Persad reported today that in the past 24 hours, Guyana has recorded 50 new cases of COVID-19 from a total of 68 completed tests. The total number of active cases in the country is now at 109. Another 109 persons have made full recoveries. The situation appears to be worsening in the Region 1 sub-district of Maruca, which has seen a surge in cases recently, and also in the mining communities. The Chief Medical Officer today reminded citizens of Maruca and those in the mining communities to heed the warnings that are being issued by the health authorities.
We call again on the residents of Maruca and those of the mining communities in Region Number 7 to heed the warning. This disease is easily transmitted when you're in close contact with someone who is positive. We have indicated that a large number of positive cases in both of these regions have no signs or symptoms, so they are what we call asymptomatic. These persons can transmit this disease, and you will not even know that they are sick because there is no sign to tell you this. I continue to urge you to wear a mask and observe the physical distance guidelines provided.
Dr. Persad also called on the leaders in the indigenous communities to assist in sensitizing their villagers about the dangers of the coronavirus and the impact it could have on the communities.
Tushaus and village councillors, operations owners, you all have a role to play in this pandemic. We need you to impress upon your villagers and workers the importance of what we are saying. All of the evidence point to the fact that if the guidelines are followed,
and as grade 6 students prepare to sit their national examinations next Wednesday and Thursday, the Chief Medical Officer reminded parents to encourage the children to follow the safety guidelines that the schools have put in place. Over 14,000 students will be writing the exams over the course of 2 days. The U.S. State Department has recognized the work of the Guyana government in tackling trafficking in persons. In its 2020 report, the U.S. State Department said the government of Guyana fully meets the minimum standards for the elimination of trafficking in persons. The government, it said, continued to demonstrate serious and sustained efforts during the reporting period. Therefore, Guyana remained on Tier 1. The government demonstrated serious and sustained efforts, it said, by completing a draft amendment of the Combating Trafficking of Persons Act, sentencing a convicted trafficker to a total of 15 years imprisonment, drafting a national action plan to eliminate child labor, completing standard operating procedures for investigating and prosecuting trafficking cases, and opening its first trafficking shelter outside of the capital. It also noted that although the government meets minimum standards, it investigated and prosecuted fewer suspected traffickers, identified fewer victims of trafficking, and did not provide adequate screening or shelter for child and male victims. In terms of preventative measures, the report said the government increased efforts to prevent trafficking, and its task force met monthly and initiated several activities, including an awareness campaign and training events. Across the region is coming up next.
They've made a positive impact on the heavy-duty transportation industry in Guyana since they've arrived. Guyanese are amazed at their power, durability, efficiency, and superior handling capabilities. These are brand new trucks, manufactured in partnership with German, Italian, and French companies. They have a powerful reputation for operating under very adverse Guyanese conditions and come with full after-sales service and spare parts. They're the most sought-after trucks today, with over 500 units in Guyana, and they're available in over 100 countries, including South America and the Caribbean. Be smart. Buy brand new ST Howo trucks today. Call 608-4998 and arrange for an inspection at ST Truck Guyana Incorporated, Block B, Public Road, Coverdon, East Bank, Demerara.
We are legions of men standing strong, but never too proud to stoop and help someone. We must send a clear signal to all. Do right. Walk in upright ways, knowing that's what being a man is all about. And ever aware that things will only get worse when good men do nothing. Stand strong. Be the one. to live right.
Hi Guyana, it's your boy Kimo Paul here. Reminding you to stay at least 1 meter away from persons, or 3 feet, to avoid contracting the flu or the COVID-19. It is also important that we stay at home and to avoid gatherings of more than 5 persons. We must all play our part, so let's protect ourselves and our families from COVID-19. We must all play our part. The Ministry of Public Health cannot do this alone, so let's all come together and fight this virus.
For further information, check our website www.health.gov.gy or visit the ministry's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or Twitter page.
Across the region right now in Barbados, the Prime Minister Mia Mottley has announced that from the 1st of July, there will be no more curfew restrictions in Barbados. In addition, physical distancing will now be 3 feet. Meanwhile, the Attorney General Dale Marshall announced that all daycare centers will reopen to full capacity from next week, and sporting events will be able to have spectators once physical distancing and wearing of masks are observed. Indoor events will be subject to density requirements. The limit for outdoor entertainment and social events has been raised to 500 people, and those indoor will be subject to density capacity. From the 15th of July, once the COVID-19 monitoring unit approves, that limit can go above 500. The move comes as Barbados is reporting no new cases of the coronavirus and no active cases. Bermuda's teachers have voted to take a 10% salary cut for a year as government battles to deal with the economic fallout from the coronavirus pandemic. The Bermuda Union of Teachers and Associated Staff unanimously backed the move at a special general membership meeting. One teacher at the meeting, who asked not to be named, told reporters that it was agreed that a salary cut would start in September when schools are due to reopen. However, the president of the Bermuda Union of Teachers declined to comment on the negotiations. Bermuda's Premier David Burt said earlier this week that belt-tightening measures faced by all government employees would not affect take-home pay. News of the BUT agreement came after the Commissioner of Education, Kalmar Richards, was forced on Monday to retract a claim that the union could not go ahead with the meeting because it clashed with training days. The planned training days for teachers who attended the meeting will be rescheduled. Also in Bermuda, parliamentarians in both the House of Assembly and the Senate have agreed to a one-year 12.5% salary reduction, plus a suspension of payments to the Public Service Superannuation Fund over the same period. Cabinet ministers are taking a 15% pay cut. And finally tonight, international news. The United States recorded an all-time daily high of 40,000 coronavirus infections on Thursday. Figures from the Johns Hopkins University show a recent surge in infections and hospitalizations has prompted the states of Texas, Florida, and Arizona to pause reopening plans. The governor of Texas ordered bars to close and announced other targeted measures on Friday to bring infections down. Florida announced it was suspending alcohol consumption at its bars. The U.S. has 2.4 million confirmed cases of the coronavirus and more than 122,000 deaths, more than any other country. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight and this week. I'm Gordon Mosley, reporting. Have a good night.